Good morning, church family. How are you doing today? Welcome to Loami Christian Church Online. My name is Anthony Bliss. I'm so glad that you can be with us today. I got some special guests, as you can see, but now you can't see me. Again, glad you're here watching with us. So last week we had some technical difficulties. I'm hoping that doesn't happen today. What happened was my computer completely just. Do you have the hiccups? My computer just froze like right in the middle of the sermon last week. The best part of that is I have no idea why that happened, so that's fun. But if that by chance happens again, hope it doesn't, because it doesn't happen all the time. But if it happens again, just know that usually I can have things up and running again within about 5 minutes. So just look at it like a commercial break or a bathroom break or a get a snack break. And so what you'll need to do, the downside is we lose everybody. What you'll need to do is stop doing that. You're looking at yourself and making faces. So what you'll need to do is you'll need to go back and rejoin kind of the way you did when you first got on this morning. Because unfortunately I can't just rejoin the live stream. I have to kind of start everything over. So the live stream that we're on now, if it dies, it won't be good anymore. You'll have to go find the new one, whether you're on Facebook or YouTube. The only place it should kick back up is on our website, loamicc.com/live. So hopefully that doesn't happen, but if it does, please come back. We'll join back in. I always try to get things going as quickly as I can. Now, a lot of you have been joining and welcoming each other already in the comments. If you haven't, let us know you're here. We love knowing everybody's here. I see Julie Eason. I see Deanna Nurganaw joined in. My cousin Amy. Hey, cuz. I see Tammy Cruz. Good morning, Norma, and good morning, Deb. Everybody's joining in on our website. Let me see if we got anybody over here. I can sometimes see people. Lana, I saw, joined in. Oh, Cheryl. Hi, Cheryl. Ashley's on our website too. So good morning to everybody that's over there. That's really fun to see everybody. Now, excuse me. Now, another thing, if you're newer to Church Online with us, let me just say it is incredible that you have joined in. We're just glad you're here. You could be doing anything on a Sunday morning and you're watching with us, and that's so exciting. And you're probably watching from home or on your phone, and you could be in your jammies, which is awesome. I haven't quite gotten up the nerve yet to do Church Online in my jammies, but I put on real pants and everything to get over here. But maybe one day I'll get the nerve to do that. The only thing I'm going to ask those of you that are newer to do is take like 10 seconds and fill out the online Connect card. If you're on Facebook, I've pinned a comment with the link to that in there. Hey, Spider-Man. So there's a comment or a pinned comment in the comment section on Facebook. If you're going to be, hey baby, if you are watching on our website, there's a button right below the video, and if you're watching on YouTube, there's a link in the description, either to the right or to the below the video, depending on how you're watching, I believe. You got to leave enough room for me to get through here and talk. So if you fill that out, that's just a way for us to help you begin helping you start your spiritual journey. And so we can kind of give you some resources to help you out. Now, one thing everyone watching can do, not just people who are new, is take a second and share this video. Taking a moment to do that, it multiplies our outreach. It multiplies the impact of our Sunday mornings. On average, we've been having about 9% of people share the video. Last week, when I said, hey, we can do better, 18% joined and shared our video. It was awesome. So let's see if we can do better than that. Now, I want to show you a short little video of how God is working with one of our mission partners, which is Restoration House Ministries. Restoration House, they plant churches all through the New England area. And so this video is coming from one of their church plants, which isn't even actually meeting in gatherings yet. They're meeting in tiny house churches right now all over the Boston area. So it is just a blessing to be able to see how God is working even through them, and that we can see where the money that we give to their organization is just a blessing to their area and their church. So let's watch that.
Well, hey, my name is Drew Thurman, and I'm one of the team members at Renaissance. And probably like a lot of you, our 2020 has kind of been put on hold, flipped upside down from a lot of the plans that we had going into the year thanks to COVID. And maybe even more tragically, our neighborhood has been greatly impacted through the virus. You know, I think just our immediate neighborhood, we have almost 900 confirmed cases and over 40 deaths. And that's not even to mention greater Boston, the whole city that we're a part of, and some of the thousands of lives that are being impacted in the midst of all of this. But I gotta tell you that even in the midst of this season and even in the midst of COVID, God is still doing something. God is still working through Renaissance in the lives of people in our city. Probably the most obvious one is that we're actually trying to help the nonprofits that are in our neighborhood. There's dozens of them, and we actually started partnering with them the moment we showed up and got on the ground.
One of the first things that we did was we wanted to reach out to local nonprofits to see what we could do. We knew Renaissance, that we were still relatively small and that there wasn't a ton that we could do, but we wanted to see how we could help. And so sent an email to a couple different ones, the Salvation Army, who is serving breakfast to the homeless population, and then also the Community Day Center, who serves lunch to the homeless population. They're the only day shelter on the west side of the city of Boston. Reached out to them, and that was on a Thursday, and I got an email back almost immediately from Carolyn, who's the executive director at the Community Day Center, and she said that she was just talking with her volunteers that morning that they needed a miracle, that they weren't going to be able to serve lunch the next day unless they got more food donations in, because everything had dried up. They got most of their food donations from grocery stores, which were being slammed, and so they didn't have anything, and restaurants were closing down. And so we were able to go out to the store and buy an SUV full of food, and we dropped it off that next day.
It's also been exciting because we've seen in this season how God has also been working through our church. We actually huddle in what we call micro churches. They're smaller huddles that are really built around where people already live, work, and play. We really try to create Christian community in those spaces and become the church there. And I've got to say that in the midst of this season, we have seen our micro churches not just survive, but thrive.
We created a giving tab on our website for local missions, and we invited everyone that was connected with Renaissance to give. And almost every single person, I think every single one that was connected with Renaissance, that was in one of our micro churches, gave to local missions. And a lot of them didn't have very much financial margin in their lives to give, but they gave.
They have pivoted so beautifully and been able to be a spiritual family and take care of each other's needs and their immediate neighbors' needs, much like what I read in the latter part of Acts chapter 2.
To see their heart for mission and their heart for others, to see them catch that vision and that mission that Jesus gave us has just been super exciting. And
allowing God to work through us, to serve one another, to be there for one another, to lift each other up in this season so that we're not feeling lonely or isolated or that we're just consuming some content, that we still feel like we are a church family, a spiritual family, even in the midst of this season. And so yes, COVID has thrown us through a loop. We've seen a lot of our plans put on pause, but God is still working even in the midst of this season. He is doing some great things through Renaissance, and I am excited, prayerfully considering and hoping for what God is going to do even in the future.
So that is just a blessing to be able to hear from one of the churches that we help support through Restoration House Ministries. They are planting churches all over the New England area. And it's nice to know that even in this tough season that we can help meet needs, not just in our community, but in other communities. And we're giving not just to the Boston, New England area, but also, in Myanmar and India. Those are also, everybody in the world has been affected during this pandemic and food shortages and shutdowns and lockdowns. And so we're just so glad that God has networked us in such a way that we can be a blessing so far and wide. So to join in and support this amazing work by giving, you can give online at our website, loamicc.com. There is going to be a gray circle in the bottom right corner, I think on just about every page of our website. You can click that and give. There's also links in the description of this video, or you can mail us a check if that's more or easier for you, to P.O. Box 258 in Loami, Illinois, 62661. Now we're going to go ahead and worship with a song, and then we're going to move into today's teaching. We're going to be taking communion after the message, so go ahead, get your communion supplies ready, bread, crackers, whatever you have, and some juice, and we'll do that after the service. Also, we're going to be praying together. I do love that we can still pray for each other and send out prayer requests in the weekly email and through our prayer chain. So if you would like to send in a prayer request, you just go to whoa, everybody. Oh, man, my kids are going to take down our whole setup here. Let me get rid of my name.
I did Nora's doing.
It was Nora's doing? Oh, okay. Yeah.
She was like pushing each other me around.
Notice this, okay? Who did it? Nobody. I'm innocent. That's in my sermon in a minute. So that's good. That's good heads up. Good example, firsthand example of that. That's great. Now, prayer requests. Let's go back to that. You go loamicc.com/live. And you'll scroll down towards the bottom. It's a big white section right under the Bible, I believe, that enables you to just fill. It's a short form you fill out with your prayer request, and we'll pray for those at the end of the service. If you want it to be confidential, you can also check that box there as well. So go ahead, loamicc.com/live, and scroll down, and you can turn in prayer requests there. Those will go straight to me. All right, let's go ahead and head into our brand new series. We're starting today called Faith That Works. We're going to be going through the book of James, the entire summer, one of my favorite books of the Bible. Actually, before we do that, though, before we do the teaching, we're going to sing a song together.
I was sure by now, God, you would have reached out and wiped our tears away, stepped in and saved the day. But once again, I say amen, that it's still raining, and as the thunder rolls, I barely hear your whisper through the rain. I'm with you, and as your mercy falls, I raise my hands and praise the God who gives and takes away. And I'll praise you in the storm, and I will
Once there was an African king who had a servant who was incredibly positive. No matter what the circumstances were, no matter how bleak the outlook, the servant would still come and say, "No, king, this is good. This is good." And I don't know if you've ever met somebody who had kind of that indeflatable human spirit, but it can get a little bit annoying at times when things are obviously not good and they're still insisting that things are good. But the king got a little annoyed at times, and on one particular day, the king was bitten by a snake and had to have his thumb amputated. And as he's sitting there bemoaning his misfortune and talking about how much it hurts, the servant says, "No, no, no, king, this is good." And the king says, "Are you kidding me? This is not good. What's wrong with you? How can you be so insensitive? I'm obviously hurting. This is going to change my life forever." And he was so fed up with this unrelenting positivity that he had his servant thrown in jail. Well, about a year goes by. The king was out with a hunting party, and the entire hunting party gets ambushed by a tribe of cannibals. And the cannibals, slowly over the course of a week, eat the entire hunting party except the king. And when they get to the king, they discover his missing thumb. And as it turns out, the cannibals were incredibly superstitious and would only eat things that were whole. And so, since the king was not whole, they let him go. Now, he couldn't believe this incredible turn of fate. So he goes back to his country. He immediately goes to the prison, gets his old servant out of prison, and begins to apologize, saying, "I am so sorry that I had you thrown in jail. I can't believe that you had the foresight to see that even something like this, me losing a thumb, could produce positive results or do something good in my life. I'm so sorry. I can't believe I've put you in jail for a year. Can you ever forgive me?" And the servant looked at the king and said, "Oh, no, king, this is good." And the king said, "Wow, how can you still be so positive? I just had you put in prison for a year doing hard manual labor. How can you say this is good?" And the servant said, "Because if I wasn't in jail, I would have been with you." Huh? Huh? I can't resist a good bad joke. It's who I am. Well, today we are going to begin a brand new series in the book of James. James is one of my favorite books in the entire Bible. I love it so much I even named my first son James. It's one of those books that has always resonated with me. Like even when I first became a Christian, like there were times when reading the Bible was really hard for me at the beginning, and yet I'd get to the book of James and it was just so practical that it just made sense, and so I spent a lot of time reading James. And James opens with that kind of just almost unbearable positivity. And so we're just going to go ahead and dive right in. We're going to read verse 1 of James, and it's going to kind of help us get into the who's and the what's of the book of James. So let's go to James chapter 1, verse 1. It says, "James, a servant of God and of the Lord Jesus Christ, to the 12 tribes in the dispersion, greetings." So first we need to talk about who James was. There were a lot of people in the New Testament named James. It was a very common name. But the evidence points to it being James, who was the half-brother of Jesus. So Mary was immaculately impregnated with Jesus. So her husband Joseph was not the father of Jesus. Well, then she has Jesus. Mary and Joseph go on to have a bunch of other kids. Those were Jesus' half-brothers and maybe half-sisters. We don't know. But in Matthew chapter 13, verses 54 and 55, it says, "And coming to his hometown, he taught them in their synagogue." This is talking about Jesus. "So that they were astonished and said, 'Where did this man get this wisdom and these mighty works? Is this not the carpenter's son? Like, isn't this Joseph's boy? And is not his mother called Mary? And are not his brothers James and Joseph and Simon and Judas?'" Different Judas, by the way. But there's this half brother named James that is probably the guy that wrote this book. And every time I get to this idea of Jesus having siblings, it almost makes me laugh. Like I can't imagine what it would be like to have Jesus for a brother. In fact, I'm curious, and I'll tell you a little bit about my siblings. Go ahead and hit the comments and let me know if you grew up with brothers and sisters. How many brothers, how many sisters? Let me know. You don't have to give me all the names and stuff, but I'm curious as to who had the most brothers and sisters. Now, if you're an only child, you could probably just put like a thumbs up emoji or an excited face or something, because you had a probably more stress-free childhood than a lot of us. But the reason it makes me laugh is because I think about like growing up with my brother and my sister. My sister moved out a little bit before my brother did, and so most of my stories of conflict revolve around me and my brother. I mean, we fought a lot of times for fun. We wrestle and stuff, but we get out of hand and we'd knock things over and break some things that my mom loved, and she'd yell at us, and it was a wonderful deal. But then there were times when you'd fight and things would get out of hand. Sometimes there were those moments when as a little brother, there's just something in you that makes you want to annoy your older siblings. And so there'd be times I'd be sitting there and it was almost like I'd see my brother and my brain would just go, oh, he looks perfectly content over there. I need to go ruin that. And I'd go annoy him and he'd hit me and it'd start a whole thing, right? And so I think about that, like what would